On this episode of the Ag Irrigation Collective, we're going to be talking about the weather, El Niño and La Niña. Stick around. Hi, I'm Wes Schaefer, your host for the Ag Irrigation Collective. Thanks for joining in on the podcast today or the YouTube video. We're going to dive into the weather today and visit about what the end of 2024 and 2025 weather year looks like. We're going to dip in and take a look and see what we're up against on El Niño, La Niña, and also this ENSO, which is El Niño Southern Oscillation. For any of you that are unaware, I'm going to kind of go over what El Niño and El Niña, or La Niña, and this ENSO, which is more of in the neutral portion of things. We're going to dip into that just to fill everybody in on kind of some definitions and what the weather might look like in 2025. So currently, toward the end of 2024, we're in an El Niño stage. However, coming into 2025, it looks like a possible transition back to La Niña or into a neutral ENSO condition, which again is El Niño Southern Oscillation. But kind of here's what ENSO conditions are. The phase of the ENSO cycle, it refers to the current state of the El Niño Southern Oscillation, a climate phenomenon that influences global weather patterns. There are three main phases of the ENSO cycle. So there's the El Niño phase, and the sea surface temperatures in the central and eastern Pacific Ocean are warmer than average. This phase typically brings shifts in global weather, such as warmer winters in northern regions, and increased rainfall in southern areas, and a reduced hurricane activity in the Atlantic. So that's a little bit of the El Niño phase. And then the La Niña phase is the opposite of El Niño. It's cooler than average sea surface temperatures in the same region. La Niña tends to cause colder winters in the northern areas, drier conditions in the south, and increased hurricane activity in the Atlantic. After just coming off of this October that we've had some very large hurricanes toward the eastern side of the U.S., that's a little bit scary, isn't it? Anyway, we don't need any more hurricanes this year. I know that, but maybe coming into next season, we'll get into some. And then the neutral phase, when neither El Niño nor La Niña is dominant, sea surface temperatures in the Pacific remain near average. Weather patterns during this phase are generally more stable and less extreme than during El Niño or La Niña. These phases of the ENSO cycle alternate over 2 to 7 years and significantly affect global weather patterns, influencing rainfall, temperatures, and storm frequency. So the warming influence of El Niño refers to the periodic warming of the sea surface in the central eastern equatorial Pacific Ocean, typically occurring every 2 to 7 years. This event disrupts normal global weather patterns. As of 2024, El Niño conditions have been present, and many experts predict they could last well into the early months of 2025. So a couple of key elements of El Niño are warmer ocean waters. We've discussed that. Shifted trade winds. In El Niño conditions, typical east to west trade winds weaken, allowing warm surface waters to move eastward. This leads to significant shifts in weather across the globe. Another thing is atmospheric impacts. The warming of the ocean in the Pacific affects atmospheric circulation, altering jet streams and leading to widespread changes in weather patterns. This is all good to know. I know we can't control the weather. However, in farming and agriculture irrigation, that's what we're doing here on this irrigation collective, Ag Irrigation, is discussing the impacts that affect us in the business. And so, anyway, moving along, what does El Niño mean for 2025? As we move into 25, the lingering effects of El Niño could still be felt across North America. Some of the expected impacts include a warmer winters. In many parts of northern United States and Canada, El Niño tends to bring milder than average winters with higher temperatures and reduced snowfall. We don't like that. especially in the western United States. We need that snowfall in our high country to be able to sustain and have some runoff over the year. Increased precipitation. In the southern U.S. and parts of Mexico, El Niño often leads to above average rainfall. This can result in higher risk of flooding and wetter conditions overall. So that's kind of good to kind of keep us thought on. Drought relief. Regions such as California and the Southwest may continue to experience relief from long-standing drought conditions as El Niño brings increased precipitation to those typically dry areas. And then tropical storm activity. El Niño tends to suppress Atlantic hurricane activity while enhancing storms in the Pacific. This trend is expected to continue into 2025, reducing the risk of major hurricanes in the Atlantic, but increasing activity in the Pacific region, being the western portion of the United States and North America. La Niña, the possible return in 2025. El Niño has dominated much of weather patterns in 24. Some forecasts suggest the potential for La Niña to develop in late 2025. La Niña is characterized by cooler than average sea surface temperatures in the Pacific. This transition could lead to different weather dynamics by the end of 25. So some of the key elements, we did talk about the cooling of the sea surface temperature of La Niña, strengthened trade winds. La Niña reinforces the typical pattern of east to west trade winds, pushing warm surface waters further west and allowing cold waters to upwell along the eastern Pacific. North American effects. During La Niña, colder than average winters are expected in the northern U.S. and Canada, often resulting in increased snowfall. Meanwhile, the southern U.S. tends to experience warmer, drier conditions, which can exacerbate drought risks. That's a big deal in our business. Hurricane activity. Unlike El Niño, La Niña tends to increase the likelihood of more Atlantic hurricanes, making hurricane season more active and potentially more dangerous. Something to be cognizant of. I guess have your water on hand, have a loaf of bread on hand. Don't wait till the last minute to get a generator. Maybe, I don't know. Be prepared. So, 2025 and beyond, preparing for climate shifts. Looking ahead to 25, the transition from El Niño to potentially La Niña or neutral ENSO conditions presents a unique set of challenges and opportunities. For many regions in North America and worldwide, this shift will require careful planning, particularly in industries heavily reliant on stable weather patterns, such as agriculture, where we live, energy, and disaster management. In our agriculture sector, farmers must remain vigilant about changing precipitation patterns as shifts from El Niño to La Niña drastically alter growing conditions. In regions that experienced wetter than average conditions in 24, a potential return of La Niña in late 25 could bring drought-like conditions. It's just something to be cognizant of course. We want to be mindful of that. And as we wrap up here, the 2025 climate year will likely be marked by the tail end of El Niño and potential onset of La Niña. Each phase of the ENSO cycle brings unique weather challenges, and understanding these dynamics is key to being prepared. Like I mentioned earlier, as the year unfolds, monitoring the evolution of these climate patterns will help individuals, businesses, and governments stay proactive and adaptable. So, one thing, and I don't think I mentioned it at the top of the podcast, but this article is written on hydrorain.com, their website, by Richard Restuccia. I'm probably saying that incorrectly, but Richard says he's a water management evangelist. He believes passionately in water efficiency and sees the financial and social benefits far too often to keep it a secret. So Richard has written this article, and it's published on Hydro Rain's website under their blog section. it's really a neat article. I'll be pulling articles such as this to reference. I can probably put a link to it in the show notes so you can reference back to it. I covered pretty much the entire article, though, so it's not like you missed anything from the article. Anyway, appreciate you stopping by today for the Ag Irrigation Collective podcast. I know that I appreciate you guys stopping by, and what other method you're checking us out on, whether it's YouTube, Spotify. Those are our two main ones. We do publish them on TikTok. So those folks over there get a chance to see what we're up against over here. But anyway, so nothing too out of hand. We appreciate you stopping in. Be profitable, my friends. We'll catch you on down the road.